Welcome to In Joe's Kitchen and our second episode in our series on Chinese cooking and Chinese cuisine. Today we're going to make a backbone of many Chinese dishes, and that is Chinese soup stock. I showed you on the last episode of the Well-Equipped Kitchen that you can get this substitute Chinese soup stock if you're in a pinch. I also talked about the Western stock, chicken stock, or chicken broth. It's not the same because it just doesn't have the same flavor because it contains mirepoix and different ingredients. Chicken stock is different all over the world. We'll talk about our ingredients today. You can start with 3 1/4 pounds of chicken wing parts. I like chicken wings for this recipe because they have a lot of collagen, they have nice flavor. These are just chicken wing section, but if it's the whole chicken wing, including the drumette, separated at the chicken drumette and wing section, and separate the chicken wing tip. And we're going to use all of them. If all you can find is chicken drumettes, that's what you can use here. And I've got 3 1/4 pounds. I also have 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 pounds of chicken feet. This looks a little disturbing here, folks, but that's important for this recipe. We also have a piece of Virginia ham, which we also talked about. Virginia ham is important in this recipe. A lot of the fancy Chinese soup stocks contain pork bones. I like to use this. It adds a little seasoning and just adds a wonderful flavor. And the ham can be, once this recipe is finished, the ham can be taken off the bone and can be diced or shredded and used in other recipes, like fried rice or putting it into rice porridge like congee jo. So that's what we have. We also have our aromatic ingredients. I'm going to use a whole bunch of scallions that I've cut into 2-inch lengths. This is young ginger. I have 8 inches of young ginger that I've cut into slices. And with the young ginger, it just needs to be washed and then you can use it. I also have a small shallot that's been sliced. This is 1 ounce worth of yellow rock sugar. It's just to put a little balance to all the savory items in here. It's not going to make it super sweet. It's just going to add a little note in there and just balance it all out. And then here is our optional ingredient. This is a teaspoon of MSG. We talked about this as well. This is an optional ingredient. If you don't want to put the MSG in, you don't have to. Also, if you want to leave this recipe without the ham, I would add another pound of chicken wing parts to this recipe and then just put a sprinkling of sea salt into the pot. But if you can handle using the ham, it's going to give wonderful flavor. Now we're going to build the pot. We're going to start with our chicken wing parts. They're going to go on the bottom. Next is our chicken feet. Make sure everything is even in the pot, as you can see here. Scallions. Young ginger, our shallot that's been sliced. If you can't locate a shallot, just eliminate it from the recipe. It's not important. Our yellow rock sugar. And finally, the optional ingredient, we're going to sprinkle over our MSG. That's just going to add another savory note in here. And then last but not least, we're going to put our piece of ham in here. Nestle it down in. What's going to happen with this is I'm going to cover this by 8 inches of water. It's going to come up to about, the water will be about there. And then we're going to put this on medium-low heat which I will show you at the stove. And we're going to keep it at that medium-low heat while it comes up to a rolling simmer, and then we're going to leave it at that temperature. So I will see you in a couple minutes at the stove. We are now at the stove with our broth here, and it took about a gallon and a half, 6 quarts of water to bring it up to 8 inches above the mixture. And it's important to have that much water in here because there's going to be a reduction that's going to happen over the cook time. I'm going to set this to number 4 on the stove, on my stove, which is like a medium low. And it's going to stay at that medium low temperature the entire time. Very important now is we're going to wait till this hits a rolling even simmer. When it hits that even simmer, that's when we're going to set a time for 4 hours. And we're going to let it cook at that low simmer, still on heat level 4, for 4 hours before we deal with the straining process and decanting of the stock. The stock ultimately takes about a day and a half. It's going to need a night in the refrigerator, which is an important step, which allows any fat that comes off of those chicken wings and fat that comes off of the ham, all of it rises to the top, and then that can be taken off before putting it into containers where it can be refrigerated or frozen. It is one of the best things to have in your freezer. It's ready to go. And ideally, the best way to do it would be to freeze it in pint-sized increments. Even if all you have is quart containers, put only a pint in each one and freeze it that way. Then pull all of them out using a little hot water. Remove them. Just dip them in hot water so you can remove the piece of frozen stock out of the container, and then place it into a Ziploc bag or into a plastic container and then back into the freezer. And that's the way to go there, and it's very simple to do. And then you can pull out a pint as need be, place it into it could be placed back into a quart container into the refrigerator covered and let it defrost, or be dropped into a saucepan over low heat and just slowly melt it back down. It will gel a little bit come the morning after when you've taken off the fat. So that's an important step there. Is just be aware that it's going to gel because of the chicken feet and the chicken wings. You're going to get a nice gel from it, and that's chicken wings and especially the chicken feet. It's going to contribute a lot of gelatin to the stock and give you that nice unctuous flavor you want. That nice, not necessarily a flavor, but a texture and a richness on your tongue. So we will come back when this hits a simmer, and we will set our timer at that time, and then we will come back after the 4 hours and show you how to strain. Welcome back. It is finally at a simmer, so I'm setting the timer for 4 hours. In 4 hours time, that's when we're going to come back to it. And I'm going to give it one little agitation here while it's, just to give it a stir. Yes, one time. And now it's going to sit here for 4 hours. And I'm going to spoon off this nastiness here. I have a little cup here. Just spoon it off. You don't have to be so worried about getting every last little bit, but just getting the major part here. We'll now leave this and let it sit. In 4 hours time we will come back and I will show you how to strain and decant this stock. Finally, our Chinese soup stock has simmered for 4 hours. After the 4-hour mark, I completely shut it off. Shut the heat off and just allowed it to settle for 10 minutes. Now we're going to do the straining. And the straining is going to happen through a chinois. You could use a sieve or a china cap. This just has a bit finer of a mesh on it. We're just going to carefully ladle it off. We don't want to really disturb the bottom of this because you might generate cloudiness. So we're just going to be really careful. I like this Chinese wok ladle to do this, but a regular ladle would be fine. The ham that's in here, we're going to hunt it down and it's going to be saved. Everything else can be discarded. This is perfect for making soups, braises, stir fries, sauces, rice dishes, dim sum items, all different kinds of stuff. And it cooks down about 4 inches from where it was originally. It's important you don't speed the process. You don't want to turn the heat on to a higher temperature. The goal here, okay, dump back some of the goodies, and we'll just continue to, at this point we're going to tilt the pot. I want to get pretty much all of it out of here. It's very important in this recipe here is to get pretty much all of it. It's all delicious stuff here. Everything except for the ham will be discarded. Give it a little final tap. I'm going to actually just tilt the pot here. For that last little bit of liquid here. The ham is hiding on the bottom, which we will find. Give it one final tap. I'm going to leave this spoon inside here. And we're going to leave the wok ladle inside. And we're going to let this sit until it's completely cooled before it goes into the refrigerator. And I have a small pot that has a lid that fits in my refrigerator, and that's what we're going to do. And then once it goes into the refrigerator, we're then going to look at, I will show it to you after a night in the refrigerator. We'll look at it midday tomorrow. It needs to be fully cooled, and that's why leaving this in here will help lick away some of it. Just keep stirring. And that's it, folks. That's how easy it is. I will see you tomorrow. Welcome back to Injo's Kitchen and our Chinese soup stock. This is what your Chinese soup stock is going to look like after it's sat in the refrigerator overnight. Mine unfortunately sat for an extra day, but that doesn't hurt your stock if that's the way it is. And what we're going to do here is we're going to carefully, utilizing a spoon, we're going to pull the fat off the top. This stock is very gelled, so it's going to be pretty easy to do. Put another spoon here just to assist in the process here. Actually, I'll grab this. Okay. We're going to save this fat for another project down the road on this channel. But just scrape it. You're not going to get every last little bit, but you're going to get 95% of it. It's just going to be that tiny little film that's left over. Okay. So that can be put aside. Next, now to look at this stock. It is very gelled. As you can see, it's a strong gel, and that's very important. I'm going to take it and put it in this container. Also going to grab a second container here. So I can take some out for another recipe. So just put this out here. I'm going to take what I need in here for a recipe that's going to be prepared tomorrow. And then the rest will be frozen. That's for tomorrow's recipe, which will be a surprise, which can be on our next installment of this recipe of this series. You want to fill these to the quart mark here. This stuff smells wonderful, as you can tell here. We got out about like 4.5 quarts, because we have 1.5 quarts measured in there in the measuring cup, and then 2 quarts here, so it's 3.5 quarts actually. There we go. Got 3.5 quarts here. The stuff smells wonderful, folks. And don't worry about it being this set the way it is. That's the way it is because of the chicken feet and the chicken wings. It's just lovely stuff, and we'll give it a taste now. Lovely stuff. It's a mild, delicate savoriness. This is not seasoned, and that is very important. It's designed that way so that when you prepare your recipes, that's when you add your you're going to add your strong flavors like soy sauce, rice wine, oyster sauce, hoisin sauce, all these strongly flavored ingredients. You don't need this to be seasoned. If you're going to use other type of stock for those types of recipes, I would recommend using low sodium or no sodium broth. If you can't find the substitute Chinese soup stock in a can, use low sodium or no sodium chicken, unsalted. So that's our Chinese soup stock episode. These are going to freeze. So I will just cap these off, and they will go into my freezer, and they will save beautifully in the freezer. It's important to put it in a container like this, or those plastic containers you get soup in from a Chinese restaurant, and plastic takeout containers. They're well built. You can use those as well. So until next time, and on our next episode, we're going to tackle the humble rice. We'll learn how Chinese cuisine. We're going to learn Chinese cuisine and the preparation of rice. So until I see you again, goodbye.